All right, this is a Prescott City Council meeting. Today is December 14th. This is a voting meeting, so welcome everybody in attendance. We're going to start off by many introductions or announcements from our Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mayor. I have several announcements. Number one, our Assistant City Clerk, Jennifer Witta, just earned her elections official certification with flying colors, I hear. Unfortunately, she's not here, but it's such an accomplishment, I thought we would give her a little honor for it.
Terrific.
And also, as you know, our Arizona Christmas City events are in full swing, and we've had the Christmas parade and the lighting, and the courthouse square, I'm sure you've noticed, has a record-breaking number of trees all lit up, and the courthouse looks beautiful at night. And we've also had the holiday light parade, and Acre night was last Friday, and it was a beautiful evening to be out. All the shops were decorated and open, and all kinds of live music was going on because it's such a unique event, and it's such a wonderful fundraiser. So anyway, we'd all just like to say thanks to all the participants that helped put these events on for our community, and also thanks to all the people who come from near and far to our downtown to support our events. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I have a little bit of an announcement here. One of the campaign issues that I ran on is this as I said, we will continue to monitor the amount of time that the public comes and address the council. This intimidating light bar is being retired.
We'll put it on your desk as a souvenir.
Okay, we'll start with an invocation from Pastor Matt Codman from the Solid Rock Christian Fellowship, and then we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance after that.
It's nice to know I don't have a light bar for the prayer. Well, Father, we give you thanks for this meeting. Thank you for minds to make decisions. Thank you for a community that matters. Father, we ask that you would give wisdom and insight to our servants, our council members, as they weigh in and vote on the things ahead of them. Lord, we pray that you would give them discernment between good and bad, better and best, for the flourishing of our community, for your glory. We thank you, Lord, for this town that we live in. We thank you for this Christmas season where one of the most significant events in the history of mankind is celebrated. And Lord, we thank you that you are here now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you, Pastor Codman. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please join me in pledging allegiance to our great republic and the flag that represents it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Now, Mayor, I'm not sure that light bar is environmentally safe in the landfill.
Uh-oh.
We'll have to consider that comment. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mayor Good.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rusing.
Here.
Councilwoman Hall.
Present.
Councilman Montoya.
Here.
Councilman Moore.
Here.
Councilman Sishka.
Here.
And Councilman Tenney.
Yes.
All are present.
Thank you very much. I think we have a proclamation.
Yes, Yavapai Big Brothers Big Sisters 50th anniversary.
All right, it is my honor to present this. Do we have some representatives from Big Brother Big Sisters with us?
Hi, I'm Erin Mabry. I'm the executive director. Yes, we were.
Fantastic. All right, so our I'll speak into the microphone here. Our former mayor was a big fan of whereases, and it turns out our current new mayor is also a big fan of whereases. So we're going to hear a fair number of them here. Let me read this to you. And then I've got this proclamation to present to you as well. And thank you for being here, for everything you do. What a great organization that contributes to our community in significant ways. And I didn't realize it's the 50th anniversary of Big Brothers Big Sisters here in the Prescott area. Whereas in August 1971, Yavapai Big Brothers Big Sisters was established to provide one-on-one mentoring to the children of Yavapai County. And whereas in August of 2021, Yavapai Big Brothers Big Sisters celebrated 50 years of serving local children through one-on-one mentoring relationships with caring adult volunteers. And whereas Yavapai Big Brothers Big Sisters is the #1 mentoring organization in Yavapai County. And whereas through partnership with parents and guardians, volunteers, and others in the community, each child is helped to achieve higher aspirations, educational success, greater confidence, and learn how to build better relationships. And whereas when children have the influence of a caring adult, they are 46% less likely than their peers to start using drugs, 52% less likely to skip school, and 55% more likely to enroll in college. And whereas creating and professionally supporting one-on-one mentoring relationships that ignite the promise in us all, allowing everyone to believe to achieve their full potential. And this last one, here we go. Whereas Yavapai Big Brothers Big Sisters lives the motto of mentoring is professional, mentoring is intentional, mentoring is meaningful. And now, therefore, Phil Good, Mayor of the City of Prescott, does hereby proclaim December 31st, 2021 as Yavapai Big Brothers Big Sisters 50th anniversary. For you. And I think you want to get a picture here? Yeah, here, let's do that. Great. And would you like to say a few words? Keep in mind, no time bar, so.
This is great.
That's great.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, and members, thank you for having us today. For me, I guess I don't have my team with me today. They weren't able to come, but thank you for this proclamation. And Big Brothers Big Sisters, yes, we've been here for 50 years. I can say this for a little while anyway. It's older than me. In our 50 years, we've served over 11,500 children throughout Yavapai County. And if you're not aware of what we do, as said in the proclamation, we intentionally match a volunteer adult with volunteer children in the community together to support and professionally support mentoring relationships. So it's a little bit different than a lot of the other youth organizations that serve. We are really looking at being able to professionally support those mentoring relationships. So that can happen outside when they're out fishing or they're out enjoying the lovely things that Prescott has to offer. Sometimes those happen in schools, sometimes they happen in buildings, but not usually. Usually those relationships are fostered through all kinds of different relationships, and of course with COVID has been over the internet for some. So there's these meaningful relationships. I don't know if you are also aware that our goal when we match a child with an adult is that they stay together at least for 1 year. Yavapai Big Brothers Big Sisters is proud to say that we actually, our average is over 4 years of the times that we keep these relationships supported. And if any of you know a big or have been a big, a lot of our relationships go on even past that. So the impact is not only just on the child, which we talked about some of those statistics, staying off drugs, staying in school, going to college, those kind of things, but also keep in mind that our bigs are just as impacted as our littles are. When we hear these stories about how a match has impacted a big's life is just as impactful as when we hear back from our littles as they grow up. So some things to update you on with Big Brothers Big Sisters. As you know, it's our 50th anniversary. But this year we really took a step back and we started looking at who we're serving and how we're serving, of course, through COVID and those kind of things. But we really heard a lot of discussions around workforce development. And I wanted to be able to bring that to you as the council members, that we're really looking at beyond 18. Normally we serve between the ages of 6 and 18, and we're actually looking at expanding that age group into college age or technical schools or beyond, but really looking at developing soft skills intentionally and professionally. So we're partnering with businesses, Yavapai College and Prescott College and some other VTech and those kind of things, and getting some of those relationships just to expand a little bit further and really focus on those soft skills that kids need these days, just to go into the workforce. So workforce development is one of the things that we're looking at. We'll be talking a lot about this at our mentoring symposium, Power of Mentoring Symposium, which will be at Yavapai College on February 26th. We're excited. This will be our second one. Our first one we snuck in right before COVID hit. And of course, we weren't able to have ours last year. But we do have it planned for this coming year. So we hope that the participation from you all would be great. I know that mentoring is something that Prescott as a city does innately, but intentionally is something else. So we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to talk about that and celebrate that as well. Bowling is back. So I thought I'd hear cheers. So we did try beanbags for kids' sake, and that was kind of, it was okay for COVID. But I know that by popular demand, bowling will be back this year. We have that scheduled for April, and we'll get information out about that pretty quick. And then, of course, I know a lot of us look forward to the gala, and we'll be having that again as well. So through all of this time, we are so thankful that we've had a lot of Prescott support. Our tax credit season is in high stakes right now, and so I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that we are a 501c3 that is accepting tax credit donations, and your support for what we've done here with youth for the last 50 years. We hope to continue that for the next 50. So thank you again for your time today. Does anybody have any questions about our programming or anything else?
It's nice to see you guys back up and running, let me tell you.
Well, thank you for that. We were working very hard through the whole pandemic, and I'll tell you, it was difficult. We sent everybody home and made sure that people were safe. I know that we got a little bit of pushback for matches meeting in person, but we, every day it was a different set of facts that we were trying to deal with, and really making sure that our children were safe, as well as our bigs. Most of our bigs are over the age of 65, so we really had to step back and look at how we were meeting, and we did a lot of Zoom orientations and training, just saying. But we worked really hard. And as a matter of fact, I was really proud of our staff, because during the pandemic, when we were in the heat of it and people were really afraid, our staff took a lot of time to call each one of our stakeholders and sit down and talk with them and check on them, not because it had to do with our programming, but really because we just care about what we're doing and who we're doing that with. So we had a lot of contact throughout the last year and a half, even though we weren't in the offices full time, and we've modified. Things look a little bit different as with everybody. So, but thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you very much for all that you do for the community, and it's very heartening to know that for the most part you're kind of back to more normal operations. I know how important it is for those young littles to be able to maintain and have that relationship with their big, to get the maximum benefits from that relationship. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and we also, like this last Saturday, we had one of our local real estate agencies actually donated just hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of toys and gifts and things that kids needed. And we were able to open a shop for bigs to come and parents to come get gifts for kids that were in need. So we were still doing all those things, and we're here. But if anybody needs anything, you can always reach me or go to azbigs.org. So thank you for your time. Thanks for all you do.
All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Do we have any members that want to pull an item?
I do, Mayor. I want to pull item 8E from the agenda.
Okay, and
Same agenda, item E.
all right, so any other items? No? All right, I'll entertain a motion for the remainder of the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda items, A 8A through 8F exclusive of 8E.
Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Please vote.
It worked.
Passes 7-0.
All right, so Councilman Montoya, you want to pull item 8E.
Yeah, I have a few questions, and I think this is going to involve both the police as well as Nate from IT. So I had emailed you guys a few questions. I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about the vendor selection process for this item.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. John Brambilla, I'm the Deputy Chief of Police with our police department. This has been a collaborative effort. This project actually goes back to 2019 when we really identified that the current camera system in the Granite Street parking garage is not just outdated, but is failed in a lot of ways. We have cameras that are not working, whether those internal issues or external issues. As far as from our perspective from the police department, trying to go back and really investigate crimes that have occurred in the parking garage, we're struggling because the coverage isn't there. A lot of the cameras are not working. So we talked with IT and facilities because we see this as not when something's going to happen, but something major is going to happen. And it's going to come down to we're going to miss something because we don't have the right camera system in there. So when we talked with IT about the things that we needed, because there's some infrastructure there that needed to be improvement, the Wi-Fi and the internet capabilities, power capabilities. We talked with facilities about some of the safety things. There really were two current vendors that we use in other areas with the police department that were already using state contracts specific to security camera systems. So we went to both those particular entities and asked them to come out, do site surveys, and then provide quotes on this particular project.
Okay, and when I was communicating with Chief Bonnie about this, she indicated that there was going to be some time saving for the police department involved in upgrading the system. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, so currently we have one employee from the police department that has the primary responsibility over this system. So for example, if an officer has a call for service that occurs in the parking garage, where let's say we're looking for a stolen vehicle. This system is not monitored live, so it's something we have to go back and do research in. The current system on the back end of it has no search capability. So we're literally sitting down at a computer screen with a time and date frame looking for the evidence that we need in a particular case. Very time consuming. She is just one person among other duties that she has within the police department. She's spending hours and hours and hours searching for video that may or may not be there. And then once we do get it, a lot of times the quality of the video is not good for us. It misses pieces that we would have had if we had full coverage. So there will be some time saving because this new system does allow us to search in the back end and pretty robustly for vehicles and people and locations. So it's going to save us a lot of time.
Does it also allow for the ability, if there's someone who's having some sort of incident happening at the parking garage, are you able to monitor that in real time, or is that not the way the system is set up?
The current system is not
The
set up.
current, no, but the proposed system that we're voting on today.
Proposed system, it will live stream into the Prescott Regional Communications Center, which is our dispatch center, which is staffed 24/7. So in theory, when a call occurs within the parking garage, they can immediately go to those cameras to see where the incident has taken place and give us current real-time information, suspect descriptions, incident status, to allow our officers to respond quicker and safer.
And I guess another question kind of along that same line is, does this system enhance the ability to, like, I imagine, people always talk about in the James Bond movies type thing, the blind spots of a camera. Does this solve those kind of issues within the parking garage? Because I know one of the things is this is a city asset. We want to make it more more user-friendly to the general public and more secure to the public. So does this solve some of that concern?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. We did walkthroughs with our threat liaison officers to look at the current system and what it covers and what we will get coverage. There were a lot of blind spots that we had with the current system. This will solve a lot of those problems.
And then I guess my last question is, and Chief Bonnie sent me a spreadsheet with this, but can you speak to like the volume of incidences that we're seeing at the parking garage currently?
Yes, Councilman Montoya, I believe that the stats that we provided to you were from 2019 to current. There have been well over 200 calls for service to the parking garage. Those calls vary. They run the gamut, everything from a public assist to somebody being locked out of their vehicle, to a problem with the elevator that the fire department has to respond to aggravated assaults, to stolen vehicles, DUI investigations, suicides in progress. So it really does run the gamut of all the calls for service that we typically respond to.
All right, Mayor, that's all of my questions. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I also would like to express my support for this new camera system. I hope that it is actually more of a deterrent, because the offenders will know that they're being recorded live. Are you going to have it posted on the garage in various places so the offenders know that they're being recorded?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Rusing, that is the other goal behind this, is to not just respond to crimes, but prevent things from happening. That we really want the word to get out that the parking garage is very well covered. If something happens in there, we're going to respond immediately. So yes, there will be signage to make sure that people understand that they're being video recorded at all times while they're in the parking garage.
And hopefully, if the offenders are caught, will the film be used in court to help with conviction?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think this will be money well spent.
Councilwoman Hall.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, thank you guys for looking into this. I think this is amazing. I have a couple of comments. I was just curious. Well, first of all, as someone who used to, of course not now, but used to go to Whiskey Row, I am very happy to hear that we're going to have cameras behind. So do we not have any visibility behind the alleyways, behind all the bars we have?
With the current system, no, there is no view of the alleyway.
Okay, so are you going to extend that all the way down, like, so you can see all the way down, or are you expecting like individual bars to do that so it covers all of Whiskey Row? Or behind the alleyway behind Whiskey Row, I guess.
When we went in to look at the design of this, we definitely had that as a concern. So the vendor that we talked to has a solution for that. We will be able to see the majority of the alleyway too, both east or south and north ends of the alleyway from the parking garage.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm really, really happy to hear that. And then this is more again out of curiosity. I saw that originally you guys had a proposal for quite a bit less, but then it wasn't federally allowed, that there was what did they call it? It was banned by the federal government. I'm just dying to know what. Was it a software issue that we were like looking for the cheaper version, and then we found out that it's like a hack situation?
So again, this process involved IT and facilities, because we really wanted to make sure that we are getting the best possible equipment. We know that this is a large amount of money, and we wanted the best possible solution. So there are systems out there that were looked at that when we researched them, we found that those were not good systems for the city of Prescott for a variety of reasons. Obviously, the security of our systems was probably of the utmost importance to us because these cameras will be linked into servers and pumped into PRCC. So we were very careful about which vendors we looked at, and there were some initial ones that we had concerns with, and those were quickly eliminated.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you guys for looking into that and doing all that work. I think it's a wonderful addition. Maybe you'll catch some kids vaping and you can scare them out of there. So stop using that parking garage for that purpose, right? But well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. I think it's important to know that when the system that's currently in place was put back in 2012, 9 years of operation occurred, even though it was pretty inadequate. But even the budgeting at that time was similar to this budget. So you're really looking at almost an equivalent cost with much expanded capability. And we certainly look forward to having that expanded capability and protection of the public in that parking garage and the alleys. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve agenda item 8E.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Excellent. All right, we will move into the regular agenda here.
Adoption of resolution number 2021-1804, approving city contract number 2022-120, an intergovernmental agreement with the Town of Chino Valley allowing for mutual asset sharing.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Gwen Rowich, Deputy Director of Public Works. The item before you this afternoon is to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Town of Chino Valley in order to share assets in the case of an emergency on either community's part. Those assets include everything from backhoes and vac trucks to our personnel when those emergencies occur. We recently assisted the Town of Chino Valley when their primary operator of their treatment plant passed away from COVID, and they needed some in-house expertise to keep their treatment plant running. So this agreement will help facilitate that on a more formal basis. The cost recovery for the asset sharing is the equipment will be based on the FEMA rates that are established by the federal government, and then the personnel costs are direct pass-through costs, including benefits and everything else for the employee. In addition to the equipment and personnel, this intergovernmental agreement contemplates the sharing of the city's water resource management model, which is our long-term planning tool for water resources here in the city. So currently, the WORM has 3 scenarios in it, and this agreement will provide for a 4th scenario, which will be for the water consumption that occurs within the Town of Chino Valley on their own system. So we'll be using their utility billing records, similar to how we use our own utility billing records to identify water consumption within their community. There's a lot of benefits to sharing the WORM with them. The city has utility infrastructure in the Town of Chino Valley, along with Chino Valley's infrastructure. So we're not attached, but we share the same water aquifer, and the water resource management model is for long-term planning of the water resource under the ground and on the surface. So that's the main parts of this agreement. It is for 25 years. It can be terminated with 60-day notice on either party's part upon written request. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Councilwoman Hall, did you have a comment?
No. Do I still have anything up?
Yeah.
Dang it.
All right, so we have
Technology.
Mayor Pro Tem Russo.
Oh, thank you. I just have a few questions. When I was reviewing the contract, it talks about in times of emergency. Is there any way we could have a specific definition in the contract that constitutes what kind of emergencies you're talking about? You mentioned COVID, loss of personnel. Would it be like water main breaks?
Those are good examples of when we would assist each other in times of an emergency, is something that's unexpected or not planned, where one entity has expertise or the other has expertise where we can assist the other.
And how many emergencies have there been, like, in the last year or two?
Well, Craig, you've been here more than 20 years. One? One in the last 2 years. It's not a common occurrence, but when it does occur, it's not something we plan for. We don't know when it's going to happen.
Okay. And then is there going to be included an exhibit with the contract that shows where the service area is? Because I was just concerned because it's a 25-year contract. You know, Chino can grow over the 25 years. And they've annexed a huge tract of land to the east of their current property lines, everything north of Prescott Valley. Will that be included in the area in the future, or is it going to be limited to what we are covering now?
So the agreement contemplates the Town of Chino Valley corporate limits. They do not currently serve outside of their city limits, or just like the town. I'm sorry, let me start again. They do not serve outside of their town limits, but the city does serve outside of its city limits. The agreement is for utility services, emergencies related to utility services. So it would be wherever their utility service would expand into, we would provide them assistance in times of emergency, wherever that system might be.
So it could probably grow over the years.
I would expect it to grow over the years, yes.
And then I don't know, 25 years is a long time. Is there any way we could kind of get it down to 5 years maybe and then reassess? Because that's a huge commitment.
I'll tell you, we do have an out with 60 days notice. So if we're uncomfortable for any reason, it doesn't have to be, a for-cause reason. We're just for convenience. We want to get out of this thing. We can get out within 2 months. So I think we're pretty safe there.
Okay.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Your comments? Okay. Councilman Montoya.
Hi, Gwen. Thank you. And I just want to start off by saying I think this is actually a pretty good example of regional cooperation in the area. Obviously, we put a lot of work into the worm model, and I think if we want to expect our neighbors in Chino Valley and our neighbors in Prescott Valley to do better with water management, we should be willing to share our tools. So I think it's a great idea, and I just want to commend the city staff for working to create a partnership with Chino Valley. The one question I have for you is probably more geared towards Matt, and I sent you an email about this, and it's just I'm new to this, so bear with me, but I just want to make sure, I know the indemnification on this contract seems pretty standard, but I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable with how that's set up.
Yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable with the indemnity. It's a mutual indemnification, which basically means Prescott will be responsible for any of its negligence and or wrongful acts that it commits, and it will defend Chino Valley to the extent they're brought in as a member of this contract. Typically what will happen is a plaintiff will see there's a contract that's got the name Chino Valley and Prescott. They'll name both of us. So what will happen is if it's our fault, we'll take over the defense for the town. And if it's their fault, they'll take over the defense for us.
So if in an instance, like imagine that a public utility person for the town of Chino Valley is driving a backhoe and they sever someone's gas line and that person sues for whatever that is. Right. They're going to sue both of us more than likely. But if it was Chino Valley that was doing it, then they're on the hook for...
They're going to be on the hook for their own defense and our defense. I think as I explained in the email, both the town of Chino Valley and the city of Prescott are both in the municipal risk retention pool. We have the same insurance company. So what will happen is if there's a lawsuit, it'll be tendered over to our insurance company, and they'll figure out who's at fault, and they'll kind of divvy it up. But it's sort of a no-loss kind of a scenario. And when we deal with other public entities and other governmental entities, we very typically go for a mutual indemnity. It's the fairest of the indemnities. Prescott, if we screw up, we're paying for it, and we'll help Chino Valley pay for it. Chino Valley, if you screw up, you're going to help the city of Prescott pay for the defense. and an indemnification.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I have a couple of comments. I also had a concern about how emergency is defined. So apparently each one of the parties can notify the other that they have a emergency in effect, and that will constitute the notification of the emergency and the ability to source this agreement.
That's correct.
From that perspective, we're required to notify the town manager in Chino Valley, but the way this is written, they're only required to notify our Public Works Department. So I think that should be modified to be our city manager. I think that's only appropriate.
I don't see any reason that would be problematic.
Yeah, I don't see that as an issue. We can make that smaller change.
Since we've only had one incident of a potential emergency in the last 2 years, I also have concerns about the extent of this agreement being 25 years. I think this kind of falls into the same type of category of when we're contemplating a tax. I think it always should include a sunset clause, because we don't want to necessarily have to notify the other party that we're canceling this agreement if we have concerns. Right now in the back it says, this agreement cannot be altered or otherwise amended except pursuant to an instrument in writing signed by each of the parties thereto. So if we're entering into a relatively new experimental, so to speak, agreement with our neighbor, I think it would be more appropriate if we had a shorter term, and that way if we discovered any potential unintended consequences, we could amend it when we renewed it, rather than being kind of locked into a 25-year agreement. And if one of the parties found some objection, then both parties would have to agree to the amendment or cancel. And I would not like to have our neighbors be forced into either notifying us of cancellation or them of cancellation when we're trying to create a mutually cooperative agreement. So I would prefer that we reduce the term to 10 years. And that way, as we monitor the effectiveness, we then can renew it at that time and possibly amend it under mutual agreement.
Make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The only question I would have about that is, let's say we have a 10-year agreement and something comes up that we object to in 2 years. Then we have 8 more years that we have to put up with it, or?
Cancellation clause.
So I just wanted to kind of butt in here. You can amend it at any time. So if things are not working out, but you still see value in having this intergovernmental agreement, you know, in 6 months you can say, let's amend it mutual. It has to be mutual, of course, but
Matt,
it's an out for
Matt,
you.
what are the extent of like the other IGAs that we have right now? Like,
The intergovernmental agreement statute allows for agreements to 25 years, which is typically how we'll write them, but also with kind of an easy out for convenience if things aren't working out well. So normally they're 25 years, but not always.
Okay.
Well, I think I am obligated to read Mayor Jack Miller's letter that he submitted today. It says, Dear Mayor Good and members of the Prescott City Council, I first want to apologize for not attending this meeting on such an important issue as I am in a 7-day quarantine for COVID. As most of you know, the relationship between Prescott and Chino Valley in the past has been strained, and I see this IGA as a fantastic first step to improve that relationship and bring regional cooperation between our two entities. We have been working on this IGA to allow the joint usage of personnel and equipment in times of emergency. This type of need was recently demonstrated when, due to illness, Chino Valley did not have the manpower necessary to operate our treatment plant. Your city came through for us and lent us an operator until our staff could return to work. I'm very thankful to Prescott for helping us operate our plant in time of need. This IGA will formalize this working relationship. What a boost for both of our communities. I would ask you to please consider passing the agreement to unite some of our efforts toward a cooperative force of manpower and equipment. Respectfully, Jack Miller, Mayor of Chino Valley.
So, Mayor, could I say one more thing?
Certainly.
I think that this is a matter of trust between the communities. Mm-hmm. And I think that yes, there has been in somewhat of a sordid past from cooperation between Prescott and Chino Valley. And my question is the 25 years a show of support for the long term for our agreements going forward with Chino Valley?
Well, it would certainly appear that way.
I'd like to make a comment, please. I just think that this is kind of a new relationship here, and maybe we should go kind of slow. And I think 10 years is a reasonable amount of time. I just can't see entering into a contract with anybody anytime, if I can help it, for 25 years. So, especially since it can't be canceled unilaterally. It has to be bilateral cancellation. So I stand with the mayor. I think we should have a shorter term.
Is it bilateral?
It's not.
No, either party can cancel for any reason.
Anytime.
Is it unilateral? Oh, thank you.
To be,
any amendments could occur at any time. Those would have to be mutual.
Okay, so amendments, yeah.
Is there a cost to Chino Valley for using the worm model?
So the development of the fourth scenario, there will be cost incurred with that. The city has a contract with Herb Dishlip Consulting. He's the primary consultant that built the worm for us, and we will pass those costs through to Chino Valley, and they will reimburse the city for all of Herb Dishlip's time in the development of the fourth scenario. So essentially, the town of Chino Valley will pay for the development of the fourth scenario.
I would imagine part of the 25 years may have influenced Chino, that may have influenced their decision to go longer. I don't know. They may not want to pay.
There is long-term value to the
if they don't
development
have
of the worm.
That
Yes.
We want to go longer.
Do we have an idea of what those costs will be to Chino Valley for the worm?
Herb Dishlip charges us on an hourly rate of $150. My guess it will be probably around $10,000 to develop that scenario.
And just to dovetail on that, there's value to us to know system-wide what the water usage is, consumption per lot. So it's not a one-way win, it's a mutual win. And frankly, this may be one of the first, even if it's a small step, towards regional cooperation on water.
Yeah.
That's great.
I have a question. How many lots out there are there that we supply water to, and how many acre feet a year of water do we supply to the Chino subdivisions?
Our current water system that the city of Prescott supplies in the Chino Valley town limits is between 600 and 700 customers.
And we expect that to grow?
We have the ability to add some more, but not extensive. There are still reservations out there for CVID users, as well as in other subdivisions. They're not completely built out, like Chino Meadows, places like that we serve.
Okay, and then how many acre feet of water do you think we sell to them?
Well, it'd be our customers that are our customers to serve, and then
it's around 100 acre feet.
Okay, do we charge the 30% surcharge?
We do.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
And our lines are in the urban commercial core for the most part. Is that a fair assessment?
Commercial and residential.
Yeah.
I do think the agreement gives the manager, at least on our side, and to the extent we ask them to change it to the manager on their side, some discretion in determining if you're uncomfortable what may be a real emergency or not a real emergency to make that call. Just something else to think about, I guess. Given the track record of one emergency and what was the nature of the emergency? The one we just talked about.
The one we just talked about. That the mayor mentioned.
Operators. Councilwoman Hall, did you have a question?
Yes. So, Mr. Petracchi, did you draft the intergovernmental agreement?
Yeah, our office drafted the agreement. Mostly was Dana Walsh who would have been working on this one because she deals primarily with our water issues and water infrastructure. But yeah, so we've reviewed this and we're very comfortable with it.
Okay, so with the wording that you have in there with the 60-day cancellation, in reality, the 25-year agreement, does it really have any bearing other than we're making a commitment, and given that that's our first step at trying to...
That's my reading of it. Yeah, it's kind of a good faith approach. Look, we'll do the long term, but each side, if we're uncomfortable with this or it's not working out,
we can break up
for any reason, or no reason, with 60 days notice.
Well, I'm not about to die on the sword on this issue. But I always support zero-based budgeting, and I think it's important that when we do enter into agreements and contracts, we have an easy way of reviewing this without potentially coming to an end point, or we find out that we have a problem, and then we have to kind of either cancel and try to recraft it, or then try to get the other side. I mean, usually the problem occurs from one of the parties. Yeah. So then the other side is less likely to want to amend it. And then you go through this cancellation process, and a lot of times that happens with budgeting. When things have already been established and they want to continue on because of momentum, and when you have zero-based budgeting, you have to go back and re-justify everything and make sure it's necessary. So that's why I thought maybe, especially when we're entering into a new agreement, that we had a little shorter period of time to be able to determine how well it's working. And especially longer-term agreements, I think, are important because frequently you have to make an investment. Whatever the agreement is, and the parties have to make a investment in some type of infrastructure, personnel, whatever. They want to make sure that they have enough time to recover that and then be able to benefit over the course of the agreement. So in those kinds of situations, I think a longer-term agreement is appropriate, but I don't see that here.
Mayor, do you mind? My thing doesn't work here, so.
Oh, no.
I think this is a matter of trust between communities. I think that I can't emphasize enough how the distrust between Prescott and and Chino Valley, and particularly from Chino Valley's side, has shown itself throughout the years, and I think that this is a really good way, a fail-safe way to project our willingness to work with them on a long-term basis. And I understand and respect your point of view.
Well, maybe I should have been involved in helping to craft this in the first place. But regardless of that, like I said, I'm not going to die on the sword with the way the agreement has been drawn up, but I would like to amend the agreement to make sure the notification goes to our city manager and not the Public Works Department.
Can I make a motion on this, Mayor?
Certainly.
I move to adopt resolution number 2021-1804 with the modification.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0. Approval of RVP 21-020, a revision of plat for the preserve at Prescott, Phase 4B, revising the number of lots, the size and dimensions of lots, and the alignment of Cumberwood Court.
Good afternoon, Mayor. I'm George Worley. I'm the planning manager for the city. Mostly for the public, most of you know me. This is a request for a revision of plat for a subdivision that originally started in the city way back under a different name in 1998. That original subdivision was called Downer Trail subdivision. It was completely platted, final platted, well before the current developer purchased it and has been working his way through creating the preserve at Prescott. This is a revision of Phase 4, which is effectively the last phase of the subdivision. Just to give you a little idea of where it's located, so this area is sort of south of Iron Springs Road. For Councilman Tinney, I pointed out the high school. Williamson Valley Road is just up Iron Springs a little bit to the north of here. This area is a very interesting area with a lot of rock outcroppings that occurred throughout much of the existing subdivision, the areas that have already been replatted. As I noted before, the developer who currently owns it, when he acquired the property, he acquired the entire subdivision and went out and looked at the property and made a determination, which is a little different than developers often do, that the lot layouts didn't take into account topography for the purpose of creating the lot spacing and the actual buildable portions of each lot. Lot lines very often left, for instance, a rock spire where the house should be on the lot in order to meet the development requirements that the city has in place. He began with Phase 1, working through each of the 4 phases, and he's gone through 3 so far, reapportioning or rearranging the lots and the streets in such a way that he's reduced much of the impact on individual lots for development. The creation of a house pad has become easier by his approach, which is to shift those lot lines. In the course of that process, he lost, was the term he used, up to 21 lots that came out of the first 3 phases. He knew that was going on, and in 2011 he came to the city council and he said, I've been doing this all along. I have a master plan that shows what I want for the whole subdivision. I would like to be able to move forward with these revisions of plat for each of the phases, but I don't want to lose all of the lots that I'm losing by changing these around to make the development more compatible with the topography. And the city council at that time agreed that allowing for the lost lots to be shifted into Phase 4, which is more easily developed terrain, made sense, and the city agreed with him at that time to allow that to occur. So I have some language a little bit further along that I will get to that. In order to see how he could gather those additional lots and put them into Phase 4, it's important to take a look at the aerial photography and see how much of that area has been impacted and how few of the major rock outcroppings that you see all to the south of that location in Phases 1 through 3 are occurring in Phase 4. Phase 4 for that part of town is relatively flat and relatively easy to grade. So there's been an opportunity left by shifting the additional lots into that area to preserve more of the open space, preserve more of the terrain features in Phases 1 through 3, and then do the type of higher density development in Phase 4 that's easier because of the topography of Phase 4. The original plat for Downer Trail created 6 lots in the area that's now considered Phase 4. Those 6 lots are very large lots. I have statistics for you coming up in just a moment, but the smallest one was 20,000 square feet, and the largest was over an acre in size, 47,000 square feet. So the lots were relatively large. In fact, they were larger lots than the rest of the subdivision's phases. They generally were smaller than an acre throughout the rest of the subdivision. He's proposing to put 19 lots where he originally had 6 lots. And it's 13 additional lots carried over from the 21 that I keep using the word lost because that was the term that was used at the time of the discussion. So he had 21 lots that he lost. He's moving 13 into this area added to the 6 that were originally there for a total of 19 lots in this phase 4 of his subdivision. The lots would the revision would reconfigure the street to a different shape to allow a longer roadway in order to get the additional lots, because you have to have certain minimum frontages based on the zoning. The subdivision is a planned area development, so you can modify the lot sizes through that process because of open space. In this particular subdivision, there's an additional nuance, which I'll talk about in just a moment regarding the open space. But the intent was to create a denser development here, and it was recognized early on as far back as the original master plan. So phase 1 is yellow, phase 2 is the blue, phase 3 is the orange color, phase 4 is the green color, and then there was a large area of open space which is shown in pink. He's identified on his master plan, again from 2011, up to 40 lots of high-density townhouse-type units up there. The way he apportioned the lots and reapportioned the lots throughout the other phases reduced that number. So again, he has 21 lots that were available to shift into this phase. So that would be 21 lots plus the 6 that were already there would have been a maximum number for him to have. So potentially 27. And there's just a little more information, a zoomed-in version of the map that you just saw. His discussion with the City Council in 2011 resulted in a 6-0 recommendation in favor of allowing him to proceed with the master plan and the concept of shifting lots into this last phase. He, subsequent to that, continued the work on phases 2 and 3, where phase 2 was underway at that time, and phase 3 occurred after that, and is now at a point where he's looking to plat phase 4 and make the modification, the revision of the plat to create those new and smaller lots in order to recapture some of the lots that were lost from the apportionments that occurred in the other areas of the subdivision. One of the things we've been trying to do, because we understand with 3 new council persons up here today, it gives us an opportunity to also talk about why we do what we do when we bring things to you. So some of the information that we're giving you in the staff reports and some of the presentations you'll see today will include identification of what triggers what. In this particular case, this revision of plat becomes a revision of plat because of those 2 items listed that are straight out of our land development code. It's section 9.10.5 of the land development code, and they identify specifically what we identified when we look at it at the staff level. So we get an application in, we look at what they're requesting, we go through the land development code, and particularly in this section, we look at these criteria. There's 5 criteria. And triggering one or more of these criteria results in something that becomes a revision of plat rather than an administrative plat. And it comes to the City Council for action. So in this case, we've identified the revision of plat changes the dedication and abandonment of public streets. You notice when I showed you the street alignments, there's a significant difference between the original street alignment shown in red and the proposed new street alignment shown in green. That was significant enough for us to determine that triggered a revision of plat. Item C, any change in the recorded subdivision that increases or decreases the lot sizes or the number of lots would trigger the requirement. In this case, the total number of lots in the subdivision is not increasing, so that doesn't trigger the requirement, but the sizes of the lots change significantly from 20,000 square foot minimums down to a 5,000 square foot minimum. So we looked at that as certainly not considered, in our case, we agreed, not nominal. And the code says if it's a nominal change in size, if you go from 20,000 square feet to 18,000 square feet, That wouldn't be, in our opinion, at least in my opinion, enough to trigger a requirement for you to see it. But to go from 20,000 square feet down to lot sizes as small as 5, significant. Becomes a revision of plat. We bring it to the City Council for your review and determination. And I apologize if this is sounding long. Any of you have heard me talk about major plan amendments? No, this is not long. I can do better. In summary, though, and again, we take this seriously. We want to make sure that what we do is easily and clearly transmitted to you, so to reduce the number of questions you have, but also to make sure that we answer any we can answer in advance. The original subdivision was a groundwater subdivision, 1988. There were 144 total lots in the subdivision. The revisions from phases 1 through 3 reduced that total by 21 thus far. The agreement in 2011 allowed the developer to shift those 21 into phase 4. The developer is asking to shift only 13 of those lots into phase 4 for a net total lots in the subdivision of 136 rather than 144. It makes sense to city staff to see the smaller lots and the more density put into an area that requires less impact on the terrain. There was already impact on the terrain due to development and the use of the site for borrow pits. In some cases, it was storage of materials. In other cases, it was simply because there's not as many rock outcroppings as elsewhere in the subdivision. Based on all of those things, the city staff recommends in favor of the modification. And unfortunately, the developer could not be here today to answer questions, but I can try to answer them, as most of this is related more to city requirements than the developer's requirements. And I would be happy to try to do that. And with that, I will take any questions you have.
Councilman Montoya.
Hi, George.
Sir?
I wondered if you might be able to talk to your determination around nominal a little bit more. And not that I'm questioning how you guys do it. I just want to understand your guys' process a little bit better for my education.
I think if you ask Mr. Pedracki, the word nominal is something that attorneys hate.
Yeah.
It is an entirely subjective concept. There's nothing that actually says 2 is nominal and 3 is not. We generally look at it from the significance of impact on the type of development. So in this case, because of the significance of the lot size changes, the types of construction and the impacts on infrastructure are different. Significantly different than what you would have if it were, again, a 20,000 square foot lot minimum changing to an 18,000 square foot lot minimum. The setbacks are the same, the lot sizes are the same, the house built on it would be the same. This type of change is significantly different in that you're going to have a smaller house or a larger footprint of house compared to lot size. And because of that, the density is higher. Those things all added up to us agreeing, or in our case, generally just saying, that's certainly not nominal. I use the word arguably only because you can argue almost anything, but a reasonable person would say this is not a nominal change.
So you mentioned the setbacks, and I think when I emailed you about this item, I had asked about that because I know that at a Board of Adjustments meeting, I think it was in this neighborhood. Is that what we discussed?
It was in phase 2. Yes.
Yeah. So I know that at that Board of Adjustments meeting, there was some discussion around changes in setbacks, and that variance was denied because it was an economic hardship and not a need. So it seems like, am I correct in my understanding that this is more or less conforming to what we thought the master plan for this area was going to be? And in fact, it sounds like, from what I heard you say at the beginning of this, is that not only is that the case, but the previous city council in 2011 kind of said, yeah, we know you can't do this, but we'll give you this allowance in phase 4. And so in some ways we're paying the piper of 2011 or whatever.
We're continuing the agreement that was made in 2011.
That's what I mean.
Correct. Yeah. And that agreement was made again in recognition of the fact that as the developer was doing what we as planners generally like to see, which is to take the topography into account when you lay out lots, with his revisions, the original developer did not.
Right.
The city saw a benefit to allowing the lots to be modified and the excess lots to be condensed into an area that has less impact, less future impact through development on the terrain. It's already impacted, or it's easier to modify, and therefore we're not losing rock outcroppings on lots like you were potentially going to see or maybe saw in parts of phase 1 and 2.
Well, and I imagine the people buying those homes will be pleased to still have the view of the rock outcroppings.
You're going to drive through them to get there.
Yeah.
Yes.
That I have no other questions, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I just have a few questions. Originally, we made a deal with the developer for 144 lots, and so this is his final phase, and he's going to end up with 136, and then those 8 lots are just going to go away, or is he planning on?
There's basically no place left for the additional 8 lots to go. He has revised plats or replatted phases 1 through 3 already, and phase 4 would be the last place that lots could go. And the replat you have, or the revision of plat you have in front of you, does not account for 144 lots. It only adds up to the 138. I'm sorry, 136.
Yeah, and then I have just another 2 questions. Since this is going to be a high-density project, is he going to have individual water meters for each patio home?
These are not patio homes, so these are individual lots with a house on it. Each one will be a single-family home.
Okay, I thought they were going to be patio homes.
The original master plan anticipated patio home type lots, but the actual proposed development is a single-family lot.
Okay.
It's not a conglomeration of...
So it'll probably be lower water use, I imagine.
The lot sizes are considerably smaller, so I would estimate that's probably true.
And then the last question, thank you, is since there is a lot of granite in the area, did he use ductile iron, or did he use water mains that were the plastic?
I don't know. Do you know? I do. Of course you do.
Oh, yes.
I missed this.
Actually, this developer used ductile iron before it was our requirement.
Look at that.
Nice, yay.
Very nice.
As developers go, he's not that bad.
Oh, boy.
As you'll see with your next item on here.
Anything further?
That's all I have, thank you.
Councilwoman Hall.
You. Kind of for City Council 101 here, right? I appreciate you giving us the information and explaining the process a little bit. So when I read the meeting minutes and what looks like was established in 2011, can you explain to me a little bit like what council would be responsible for approving and reviewing today in that context versus what we've already granted him? I mean, I don't necessarily see a scenario where we say, never mind, we're not going to do what we did in 2011. So I guess, are we reviewing the actual plat because now he has that drawn out? And before it was just a hypothetical, this is what, okay. So it was numbers before.
What he's done. So
okay.
Originally, this is a little unusual for what you will see in the future.
Yeah, like a carryover lot. I've never seen that. We'll use it later.
Existing subdivision and then replat pieces of it along the way is an unusual approach. Most developers wouldn't do that. In this particular case, that's what the original lot arrangement was for Downer Trail, the 1988 subdivision. So he knew that he was going to make changes eventually. He shows this area in green, again, as phase 4, with this potential as far as the number of lots. And the term patio home lots can often mean just small lots with small homes on them. It's not necessarily the distributed, horizontal distributed residential that we've seen like Keystone, as you were talking about at a recent council meeting. So in his case, he knew he was going to kind of gather up that lost density and put it into this last phase, and that's what he showed council back then. So council's agreement to allow that, as long as it didn't exceed the original subdivision number, 144 lots, was an acknowledgement that he was actually doing a better job of laying out the lots in the first 3 phases. At the same meeting and during the same discussion of this, the city had negotiated because of an intent for a layout of a trail system, and you'll see a little bit more of that in a moment when we move to the next agenda item, to acquire his open space. So the negotiation to shift the lots also involved a negotiation for the city to acquire his open space. That acquisition of open space didn't change the plat as a planned area development, which allows him to shift lots around and do something like this under the zoning. But it did allow for the negotiations to exceed just the shifting of the lots. So we negotiated open space and we negotiated the shifting of the lots, or he negotiated shifting of the lots as the agreement between the two parties. He got the shifts of lots. He did a better job of lot layout for the first 3 phases. We got the open space so that we can make trail connectivity. So that was the agreement that was made when the master plan was adopted in 2011.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like you guys did an excellent job. We worked with them, and then now less houses overall, right? So it doesn't decrease the open space, making this change any significant amount?
No.
Okay. And then as far as it goes with the townhomes, so they are individual single-family homes. They're not apartments or anything like that.
Correct.
But it is still, even though there are other houses that are maybe bigger, nicer, whatever you want to call them, it's still acceptable within that area, right? I know that there's quite a bit of a variety of things going on over there. I think there's RV storage and there's a lot of different things we have going on over there, but this still fits in.
It would fit in under
nicely.
the planned area development concept allows for lots to be made smaller within a particular zoning district than the zoning district's minimum, provided that open space is provided.
Right.
They met the requirement for that with subdivision plat. They exceeded the requirement for that open space designated for the subdivision. That allowed them to shift the lots around. His efforts in phase 1 through 3, though, didn't look at reducing lot sizes because of the open space. They looked at making the lots larger in some cases in order to account for the topography. So again, he wasn't really looking to use the PAD allowances, the planned area development allowances, to reduce lot sizes because he didn't need to for those first 3 phases. He does for this phase. Some of his lots are as small as 5,000 square feet, and his zoning minimum is 18,000 square feet. So he's reducing the lot sizes, but he also provided the sufficient open space per the land development code to allow him to do that. So he's meeting the code requirements for the proposal that's before you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Shishka, just thought I'd check with you since you're. I used to sit in that spot and it never worked for me either.
I'm really good with the comments that have been made so far, Mayor.
Do we have any public comment, City Clerk?
We do not.
All right, barring that, any further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve RVP 21-020.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0. Adoption of ordinance number 2021-1785, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, authorizing the acceptance of real property gifted to the city from Burrow Creek LLC for public trailhead parking purposes, and authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said acceptance.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Joe Baines, Recreation Services Director. This dovetails nicely with what we just talked about. It is part of the same subdivision and part of the popular Centennial Trail, which gets about 20,000 visits a year, which is pretty good for a fairly remote area like this, or remote to other trails, I should say. And I wanted to point out too that through this revision that you just went through, the minimum open space that was required was just under 30 acres. It looks like it'll end up being more like 34 acres. So we've increased that too. As I said, the Centennial Trail is a popular trail. It's about 20,000 visits per year. There is two trailheads. One is the one that's being contemplated right now as a donation from the developer. We can say his name. It's Tom Devereaux. It's been here for a long time. And we've leased it for about 6 years at $1 a year. Really has helped to keep traffic and parking off of Westridge Drive. Really is a nice entry point into that trail system. And then about midway through the trail, there's another parking a trailhead that the developer actually constructed after we acquired that open space. He went in and put asphalt millings in and graded it out for us. So he's been a good partner. This is about a little over a 2-mile trail. It's pretty interesting if you look at I guess it would be the west end of that trail. That is a petroglyph area that's been identified, that's been preserved. So it's really neat. As George pointed out, a lot of really neat topography in there. It feels kind of rural, but it's kind of in town, and great views. I see a lot of you nodding your head. I think you've been out there before, but anyway, the developer, this is the lot that he would like to donate to us, the appraised value on it, and I want to thank Public Works for putting this item together for us. We really worked well together as a team. The real estate specialist put this all together for us. This is, I think the appraised value is $210,000. Like I had mentioned, we've been using it for about 6 years now as a part of our trail system. We've acquired over the years some asphalt millings that you can kind of see around that tree, so it's kind of dried in. We can formalize it a little bit more at a later date, but it functions well right now. This is one of our more popular trails for the Trekabout hiking group. They'll have about 20 to 30 people on Thursdays that go out, and this is one of the trails that they like the best. So really with that, don't have anything else, but I'd answer any questions you might have.
I have a question.
Councilman Tenney. Councilman Moore.
Just a simple question. Who owns the property to the right of the subject parcel?
That would be Ted Lamb. That's part of that,
Okay.
the RV storage.
It just looks funny. It looked like it would take in the whole thing. That's why I was curious.
No.
I think it's great.
Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns?
Mayor, just one question. Joe, this is going to be awesome. I remember going up in there and trying to figure out where we were going to park. But so how developed are you going to make that parking area?
Councilman Shiska, really, we don't need to do much more than what's already been done. It functions perfectly well for the goal of keeping people off of the road. It has a good entry point into the trail system right now. Over time, we might add some more asphalt millings, but really pretty minimal.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
I think this is a pretty easy one. This looks like a very positive development for the community, and we want to thank the developer for offering this to us.
I'd like to make a movement.
Yeah, I would just like to make a comment. I hope that he starts a trend and we get more agenda items like this.
All right, if there's any public comment?
No, Mayor.
No? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve item number RVP 21020.
It's actually the next one.
Oh, am I on the wrong number? Sorry. Ordinance number 2021-1785.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0. Approval of RVP 21-021, a revision of plat for 1567 Buttermilk Road to split one lot into two lots. Location APN 111-07-31B. Property owner Chad and Kelly Dugan.
That's Dammy's. Should be like go up. It won't. It's not moving. We'll move that arrow. There we go. Not the keyboard arrows. Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Bryn Stotler, Director of Community Development. Today we are looking at a few replats, and this one is really going to be the polar opposite of what George just presented. And even more fun, it's short. Yeah, short, much shorter. It's also historical. This is a revision of plat for 1567 Buttermilk Road. The request basically is for a portion of Lot 348 in the Idlewild Tract to create two lots. The Idlewild Tract is an historic plat that was first recorded in 1909. It was basically just a carve-up of 1 acre tracts with no roads. It is publicly accessed by City of Prescott roadways, but within the subdivision, most are driveway easements and roadway easements. So it's pretty rural out there. Lots throughout the tract have been split and recombined over all of the intervening years since 1909. That, by the way, predates our first zoning code by almost 50 years.
Not even Steve Blair was around for this one.
That's right. Not even Steve Blair was on council then.
Just missed it.
So let's get you oriented here. The subject parcel is here in the middle of this Idlewild mass of 1 acre and modified tracts. We're on West Gurley Street out here by Plaza Drive. Here is the bowling alley. And of course, the small commercial office settlement here, and further west on Thumb Butte Road. So again, this is off of Buttermilk Road, which comes in off of, what's that? That's Buttermilk right there. Right off of Gurley. And then, Idlewild Road. And then Buttermilk here, driveway easements are found all over this area. A look at the zoning map, and this kind of gives you an idea of how these tracts have been, these 1 acre plots were carved up and recombined over the years. The subject parcel, again, is a combination of 2 1 acre lots from the historic plat, and the proposal is to redivide this combined lot into 2 lots. Here's the historic plat, which is so interesting. The 2 lots in question, the original lots, are down here, identified in red. So at one point, they were each 1 acre tracts. And as you can see, the properties that surround this parcel give you all manner of reconfigured parcels, 1 acre tracts that have been split and recombined over the years. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it. And when subdivisions like this predate our actual zoning and our subdivision regulations, this is the result. There was really no tracking mechanism back in those earlier years. And basically, in the earliest phases, properties could have been Lot A wants to give the owner of Lot B an additional 50 feet to build a larger garage. They would do that by a simple written recorded instrument. They wouldn't even have a visual depiction of that property exchange. So it's a little tough to keep track of. However, we are back here with Parcel A and Parcel B that will result from re-dividing this master parcel. Again, the revision of plat criteria informs this process. This revision of plat is in front of you because this is not a nominal change. This is dividing essentially a 2 acre parcel back into 1 acre parcels, or a little less because of the residual parcels from past splits. So this just identifies to you that it's in front of you as decision makers, because it cannot be administratively approved, again, due to the arguably not nominal change. So in summary, the original final plat back in 1909 created over 400 1 acre parcels. Zoning was applied in the early 50s, and so any activities since then have been informed by the SF9 zoning, which means single family only, 9,000 square foot minimum lot sizes. Over time, obviously, multiple of these parcels have been split and combined. The revision of plat redivides 2 previously combined sections of lots 347 and 348. The remainder parcels meet our zoning requirements, and that's really the bar that we judge them by at this point. And there are no other changes to access or easements affecting either parcel. With that, I am available to answer any questions you might have.
I just am curious, is this tract are they all on septic, or what do they have out there?
Craig? Good question, being so early.
The majority of this area, yes, is on septic, and there is a historical water contract for them as well that allows them to continue on septics but receive city water.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Yeah, it's the way they did it back then.
Bren, how do they have access into these 2 parcels?
They're through driveway easements. Let me see if I can get you a better image here. well, let's see if they don't really, they do identify it here. It comes in off of Buttermilk. It's depicted on the revision. Let me go up to,
The map here was a little inadequate.
and it's a bit difficult to tell, but you can kind of see the way that these folks come into these properties in this area. But yes, the majority, all access out there are driveway easements.
So do we know the intention of the property owner? Are they going to split it and then put another dwelling on there?
They didn't express that intent. People sometimes offer those details. We don't always ask those details. They do have the right as private property owners to make this division.
Well, it's kind of an oddball, but it's kind of an oddball plat out there, isn't it? All right, any other discussion? Any public comment?
No, Mayor.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve RVP 21021.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0. Approval of RPT 21-010, a revision of plat for 516 Lincoln Avenue to split one lot into two lots. Location APN 113-08-097. Property owner Viking Real Estate Investments, LLC.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Tammy DeWitt, Community Planner with the City of Prescott. This is pretty similar to what you just saw. It's another revision of plat to split the parcel into two. Very touchy. So the request is to a revision of plat for a portion of Lot 10 to create two lots. The parcel is zoned multifamily medium density, and the proposed lots meet the size requirements of that zoning density. Splitting of lots into two or more lots within the subdivision is not permitted under the administrative replat process and has to be approved by City Council. Here's the subject parcel in question. It was a bigger lot at one time, but this is another area that's been split over the years and recombined. And this one's already developed as a multifamily parcel, but they want to split it to create two separate taxing parcels. Here's the zoning of the area, and kind of shows you that we have all different kinds of sizes in this area. Through the years, it's been split up. So here's the original plat from 1907. So we have some old plats here prior to zoning. So this is the lot 10 here in the corner.
It's getting on council at that. First year?
Yeah. So this is lot 10 here that they're going to be splitting a portion of it off. Here's the lot in question, and they're proposing to split it just like this because it is already developed to meet the setback requirements and such. This is the way they figured out how to configure it to meet the requirements of the zoning density district. They have already applied to get new sewer and water extensions to the two lots, so they'll both have their separate water and sewer on the property. So as we've done before, the criteria for a revision of plat, this one also, it's not nominal. It's an increase in density in the area. So for provision number 3 applies to it, similar to the one you just saw. And that concludes my presentation. I'm free to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a question, Tammy. So do we currently have two houses on this plat?
Yes, we do. It is zone multifamily, which allowed for it. Right. So this is a house here in the front, and then this is a house here in the back, and then the garage. The garage will go with this house.
Exists as well?
Yes, all these are existing structures on the property.
So this is simply a lot split, so there will be two separate lots and owners?
Correct.
Right?
Seems pretty straightforward, yeah.
Well, you got good access, and any upgrade in that neighborhood, I think, is probably a good upgrade.
Yeah.
So here's another example of improvements in some of our more challenging areas, and I think it's a good project, or at least a good process.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? Any public comments?
No, Mayor.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve RPT 21-010.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Well, I think that concludes our agenda items. Shocked I didn't have a single opportunity to vote no, but I almost got there. I will conclude our first official full meeting here with a comment. I think I've used this before, but I think it's particularly appropriate since it is our first meeting, and we're going to be entertaining a call to the public at our second meeting next week. So again, this is from Thomas Jefferson. We in America do not have a government by the majority. We have a government by the majority who participate. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. So as we encourage more public participation and transparency, we're probably heading in the right direction. So thank you all, and this meeting is adjourned.
All right.